Haley Welch, the viral hawk Tuah Girl, is a textbook case study on how to torch your own reputation by treating your fan base like a piggy bank. From getting caught in 4K lying to CoffeeZilla to denying the obvious scam, her engagement metrics are currently bleeding out. But the numbers plummeting is just the opening act of this career suicide. Big shout out to the real ones, the actual human beings who watch my content and stick by my side. We're scrambling to put the pieces back together and fix this mess. Oh God, the waterworks are coming. No, hold it together, don't cry, we're gonna be fine, we've got this. Hi, I'm the Milo Speaks, and I drop deep dive documentaries every week. Today, we are dissecting the implosion of the Hawk Tuah brand, her failed attempt to gaslight the web a second time, and why the FaZe interview was a PR disaster. Plus, we'll look at the comeback that backfired so hard she wiped out 90% of her following. 2 months ago, I covered her rise to fame. The bottom line? She's the kind of person who can turn a meme into a legitimate media empire, only to set it all on fire for a quick crypto cash grab. Hey guys, it's Haley. Thanks for hopping in the space. To my 15,000 holders, yeah, we got absolutely wrecked by snipers today. But my hands are diamond. I haven't sold a dime. This is just day one, and these tokens are for the day ones. I'm talking about the people buying the merch, listening to the show, and supporting the cause. Talk about a steep learning curve. But honestly, screw the bots. I'm not leaving. After that crypto train wreck, Haley went ghost mode, praying the internet would suffer from collective amnesia. Spoiler alert, she's back to test the ice. On February 6th, 2025, a leaked tape of the Hawk Tuah podcast surfaced, giving us a VIP seat to watch Haley deflect blame for 40 minutes straight. How are you holding up? Honestly, I'm still rattled. How was the downtime? Long. Way too long. That's the worst part of it. I was reading off a script, trying to put it in my own words, and then my brain just checked out. I'm going to sleep. I needed to do this for my own sanity because I know the entire world is going to scrutinize this footage. Everyone is on the edge of their seat waiting for my statement, and let's be real, 99% of them are clueless about crypto. I'm in the same boat. Exactly. The running gag on crypto Twitter right now is that if she launched this 2 days after Trump, she'd be golden. But that's false. It's about the execution. That's the entire point. There is a playbook for this. If you want to enter this space, your network is everything. You need a circle you can actually trust to guide you. That was definitely my fatal error. No shock here, the interview kicks off with pure manipulation. The goal was to disarm the audience by painting Haley as the fragile victim, complete with crocodile tears. Shout out to the real fans, the ones who actually care about me and follow my journey. We are trying to solve this puzzle and make it right. Oh gosh, I'm gonna start crying. No, stop it. Don't cry. It's all gonna be okay. We're good. To make this circus look professional, FaZe Banks opens with a monologue about how transparency is their North Star. We need to put everything on the table. Exactly what went down. I think full disclosure is the only way forward at this point. We need to break down the partners, the launch, the crypto mess. Why is this bad? What makes what Iggy Azalea is doing successful? How is Trump's project different? We are going to cover all of it. So I brought in the heavy hitters. Thread Guy here is the king of crypto streaming. And Frank Digods, who launched a massive project last cycle and trades at an elite level. He's a legend in the trenches. These guys are sharp. They know this market better than anyone. But the key thing is, they have reputations to protect. We are all doxed public figures. We have to operate with military precision. Given she just nuked her credibility and scammed her fans, you'd expect the focus to be on apologies, not profits. You'd be wrong. 5 minutes into this career-saving interview, Haley pivots to a shameless ad read, trying to squeeze more cash out of the very people she just rugged. Alright, listen up guys. I'm down to my last sponsor because they are the only ones loyal enough to stick around through this storm. Game Time is riding with me, y'all. They have more loyalty than your boyfriends do. Look at these cowards running for the hills the second the heat turns up. But this podcast is here to stay and we are not going anywhere. It is game time. Even though Haley made it crystal clear she values her bank account over her audience, she tried to spin the narrative. She claimed pushing the Hawk token was some kind of charity work, saying the pitch landed in her lap months ago. Her defense was the classic, "I did not want to do it. I am clueless about crypto and I heard it was a dangerous space." So the excuse is willful ignorance. Apparently they just blindly trusted some guy because he was a vague acquaintance. Just a friend of a friend that is the hill she is dying on, admitting her biggest failure was not doing a basic background check. They bought into the hype because this mystery man supposedly had deep connections in Los Angeles and leveraged that clout. He used that reputation as his own reference, and looking back, it is obvious the guy was selling a dream. He completely exaggerated his ability to actually pull off a project of this magnitude fair assessment, absolutely. That is the standard playbook. But Hailey did not stop there. She dragged everyone else down with her painting, her partner Doc Hollywood as the villain. She even tried to frame internet detective CoffeeZilla as some terrifying monster you cannot even speak to. Oh, do not talk to that guy, he is a nightmare. Look, we are going to be a lot nicer than Coffee is. CoffeeZilla openly despises the crypto industry, whereas we are on the other side of the fence. We live this stuff. We want to see the technology win. This is our daily grind. But you have to hand it to him. Coffee knows exactly where the bodies are buried. He asks the questions you do not want to answer, which is probably why scammers treat him like he is radioactive. You claim you cannot find common ground, but we actually sat down with the guy. We got his take and he gave us a list of questions to ask you directly. And honestly, they are solid questions. Oh god, that terrifies me. Relax. Do not panic just yet. You are making him out to be the boogeyman. Hailey tried to play the innocent bystander who just wanted to help her fans. But when you look at the actual contract with Doc Hollywood, that innocent act falls apart. The internet wants the truth. Did you get paid up front? How did the token split work? I can actually answer that it was structured as a standard image and likeness deal. They handed her a cool $125,000 in cash up front, with another $200,000 promised 30 days post-launch. She was promised full access to the financial data, which they technically provided, but the plan kept changing every 5 minutes. Her involvement was supposed to be collaborative. The agreement stated there was a 10% allocation of the total supply. That stash had a 1-year lockup followed by a 3-year slow release. But here is the kicker. Half of that went to the company. So the creators took their cut, meaning out of the entire supply, Hailey was only ever going to control 5%. Put a pin in that number because it matters later on. Hailey's lawyer argued that the paper contract with Doc Hollywood did not match the code they claimed. They only realized the tokenomics were rigged after the rug had already been pulled. It is the same old story. You operate in the dark, have no oversight, and then suddenly you are on cleanup duty trying to save Hailey's reputation. You are trying to fix it now, but you are claiming you never had the chance to prevent the disaster. Is that right? Yeah, exactly. I handled the negotiations, and we demanded strict accounting transparency in the paperwork. We even added SEC compliance clauses requiring them to act as a proper project manager. We kept asking about the token distribution throughout the entire development phase. But the story kept shifting the last explanation they gave us, right before the launch. Claimed the early investors were locked for a month with a slow release over a year. Obviously, if you look at the blockchain, that was a lie. Even now, 80% of the supply is controlled by the developer. And who is that? I have zero idea who the dev is. That information was hidden. The contract reeks of negligence. They did not know the math, and Hailey's team did not even know who built the product. They were promoting a mystery box, and it turns out the majority of the coins are held by anonymous ghosts. How could anyone expect this to end? Well, what exactly was the structure for the pre-sale buyers? I am not sure. There was a 17% allocation. My understanding is the buyers were mostly located in Asia. Again, it was supposed to be a 1-month flock with a 1-year drip release. And how much cash did they rake in for that 17%? $2.8 million. Despite the massive incompetence from Hailey and her crew, FaZe seemed to think the real crime was bad PR. Obviously, we have seen this movie a million times. We know how the scam works. The issue for you is the optics. All those creators milking this drama for clicks, churning out content left and right, they're reaching your standard everyday folks, just regular people out in the heartland. You've got some 16-year-old kid looking up to you, and all they see is a massive crypto grift, which, honestly, is a major issue I care deeply about. The whole industry already has a toxic reputation specifically because of stunts like this. And frankly, the system for getting new people involved is completely broken. It is so hard to actually get started safely, and I bet you are lost on half the terminology being thrown around. Which proves my point exactly. It is like trying to speak a foreign language. And the bottom line is, if you have no clue how this space works, you have zero business being involved in it. Now, while the majority of that conversation was just a pity party about how she got played during her entry into the market, luckily, the other guy in the room actually had the spine to suggest a real solution for the victims who got wrecked by this coin. Look, imagine if you took every single cent you profited from this mess, turned around, purchased the supply back, and then froze it completely. That is a tangible step you could take to show the community you are serious. And I honestly believe doing that would essentially seal the deal and let everyone move forward. That was the concept we discussed regarding changing the narrative through a grand gesture. You absolutely hit the nail on the head with that idea. you brought up the figures before. Was it 125,000 plus another 100 grand? Right, so regarding the total payout she got, $125,000 has been pocketed. Essentially, what Frank is translating into, layman's terms, is this. You take every dime of profit. You buy the token at market price, lock it away, and you walk. You never touch that cash again. It is gone forever. You tell everyone, look, I might not harp on this daily from now on, but I am owning it. I attached my brand to this, I am taking full accountability for the fallout, and with any luck, everyone gets paid back eventually. Now, you would think that when given such a perfect roadmap to fix the destruction they caused, her management would jump at the chance. I mean, they kept insisting their hearts were in the right place, didn't they? But of course, they had a different scheme in mind. They leveraged the buzz from that very interview to artificially inflate the coin's value and dump more of their stash. This happened right after Banks dropped a tweet totally trashing the interview. He wrote, "So, I tried to get her perspective on this crypto fraud and agreed to be her comeback guest. I had strict conditions. Number 1, absolutely no market manipulation, by teasing this episode before we fixed the mess. Number 2, her team needed a concrete plan for the profits where that cash goes, and the future of the project. These were mandatory terms, and we made it clear this footage would only be released if we gave the direct approval." He then exposed exactly why they leaked it early, stating, "We saw suspicious trading volume and got DMs asking about the recording. It became obvious her management is nowhere near as trustworthy as they pretended. And now, the audio leaks out of nowhere, the coin pumps, and they have completely effing screwed this up all over again. What an absolute disaster." You almost feel bad for her, wondering how she ended up here. But listen, Haley, I am talking straight to you now, repeating what I told you on that Spaces call. Fire, everyone. Your team is trash. Yet again, she let avarice and total apathy for her audience drive the bus, and predictably, that put her squarely on CoffeeZilla's radar. On February 8th, 2025, Coffee dropped a video called Hawk Tuah is Back, breaking down the train wreck that is her career, and exposing some juicy details about the backstage chaos. He said, "So I hopped on the stream, that terrifying dude, let me tell you, you never want to talk to him." Whoa, hold on. You don't want to talk to me? I am not scary at all. I don't get it. I am literally Joe Rogan height, people. I do not cut an imposing figure. If you saw me on the street, you wouldn't be shaking in your boots, screaming, "Ah!" Just chill out, it is fine. Hop on a call and let's chat. It makes no sense. Especially because her attorney actually invited me to be on her podcast. I mean, they really pushed for me to appear, constantly mentioning how much of a fan she was. Hence the shirt I'm wearing. It's the classic, I loved CoffeeZilla right until he refused to join my show, and now he is. He who must not be named. He is too dangerous. Watch out, do not mention the investigator. Apparently, I am intimidating. Look at this email from her counsel. She wants you as a guest. You would be the first one since the token collapsed, and it would generate massive traffic. It will be a very friendly chat. This lawyer clearly doesn't know who I am. She really likes you. Wow. I thought she was terrified of speaking with me? Which is it? Now, even though he turned down the invite, he was still digging into the deal between her camp and Doc Hollywood prior to the drop. First off, I am not here to fix the reputation of a scammer, and there are still major questions left unresolved. Specifically, what was the actual contract between her and this Doc character? It is not complicated. Her entire defense is just, "Oh, I'm a victim. I was clueless. I didn't realize I would barely get paid." She claims she only got 125,000 plus, half of 10% of the supply locked up. She acts like it was a bad deal. These absolute ghouls were gaslighting me, acting like they held all the cards when I just wanted one simple thing, the contract. I told them to prove their claims were true, but of course, they had every excuse in the book for why they couldn't share the documents. He apologizes and says he can't verify a single word, dodging the massive question about the 50% profit split. I had intel that this girl was set to pocket 50% of the entire operation, but he swore up and down that only applied to the tokens. I started second-guessing myself, thinking maybe she was just a minor player in this scam. But something didn't smell right. Since they treated the contract like state secrets, CoffeeZilla sent over a specific list of questions for Haley to answer instead. The deal was simple. The podcast stays in the vault until they actually fix the mess we discussed. They broke that condition immediately. Haley's team pulled the classic, "It was an editing error defense," blaming the guys behind the scenes. Oh, Oops, the production team just accidentally released the interview where we look like we are insider trading the coin. But this guy steps up to vouch for the internal crew, swearing that Jake Paul's team at Better had nothing to do with it. I guess we are supposed to believe there is no way they would pull a stunt like that. Trust us. Guys, they claim the leak was a clumsy mistake by an editor at Better who had the episode sitting in the YouTube queue, just waiting on approval, apparently. I don't know if that is true, but here is what is suspicious about this video. Anyone who works in media knows you do not put in the grunt work to polish a sensitive episode if you think it is going to get spiked. These people didn't just edit the footage, they baked advertisements into the leaked version. That is a finished product. I am not saying it didn't leak, but it is highly convenient. While that interview might have helped Hailey's team spin the narrative, in the short term, it backfired spectacularly because it created massive contradictions when stacked against CoffeeZilla's evidence. This comes straight from Doc Hollywood himself, the ringleader here, and he explicitly breaks down the scheme. The pre-sale raise is 50-50. Project fees for market making split right down the middle between us and Hailey. 50-50. That is a radically different story than the one they have been feeding me this entire time. We are not talking about 50% of the pre-sale tokens. We are talking about millions of dollars in cold hard cash. It is over $1 million. The stories do not match. This guy tells me to safely disregard anything Doc Hollywood says. He claims Doc is lying, denies the numbers, and then tries to shut down the conversation. He tells me he can't possibly email the contract, but he is willing to let me look at it with my own eyes in person. He used that as an excuse for why he was going to show me later, but these text messages are from before the coin collapsed. So, I don't get it. Why would Doc lie to his own partners in a private chat? He wasn't covering his tracks, he was planning the heist. Naturally, Hailey's team denied the receipts and tried to cover it up with a brand new explanation. If their story is true, Hailey signed the worst contract in history. Half of 10% of the tokens plus $125,000? That makes 0 cents for the person bringing all the fame and recognition. You are the entire brand. And you are walking away with a measly slice of the pie while they rake in $4 million? The math does not check out. Then he slips up. The contract says she got $125,000 on signing, $200,000 later, and 50% of the net proceeds. He tried to qualify it with mutually agreed upon tokenomics, claiming they only agreed to split a tiny fraction of the tokens. I want you to realize what just happened. He is backtracking on the narrative he has been pushing the entire time. It went from just 50% of the 10% to 50% of the net proceeds. Real quick. He is finally giving us the real story. 50% of the project's net proceeds. Period. That is completely different from their lies. I told him straight, 50% of net proceeds does not mean half of 10%. It means half the profit. Market making. Pre-sale. We are talking about the $4 million they discussed. He tries to play dumb, claiming Memetic told them that money was for running the project. This led CoffeeZilla to conclude they were downplaying their profit to avoid legal liability. They are trying to dodge jail time. I am just trying to say, please do not view these guys as victims. That is my read on the situation. They want you to believe they barely made a dime. And that is objectively false. That is not what they stood to make. I asked him, you told me to ignore Doc, remember? You said his words didn't matter, but you literally had a contract for 50% of net proceeds. Doc said the project cost a few $100,000. Pre-sale was $2.8 million. Fees were $1 million. They made almost $4 million. You were contractually owed $1.6 million. I then shared another insider text from Doc where he says, we put a hard number to the side for costs. We spent a few $100,000, so that gets paid back to us off the top. Then the profit is paid out. If the costs were only a few $100,000, who is entitled to the rest of that mountain of cash? It is classic manipulation, trying to convince the world she is just a helpless innocent while gaslighting the very audience she targeted. She stood there claiming she didn't want a dime. That is a lie. She only decided she didn't want the money after she realized every transaction was being tracked, scrutinized, and prepared for a lawsuit. Facing a potential criminal investigation by law enforcement and seeing no other escape route, her legal team finally cracked. They admitted they were actually expecting a cut of the profits, a confession that completely destroyed the I didn't know anything narrative she pushed on the podcast. While she might technically be owed that cash, her defense claimed she had approval rights over the token economics. By complaining she didn't get to sign off on the transaction fees or approve the pre-sale identities, they effectively handed us the smoking gun. He is literally admitting that he has been lying this whole time. He lied about their financial stake. Let's be clear, she could have walked away with millions of dollars from a literal scam. Regardless of the spin her PR team attempts now, the reality is they were perfectly happy to act dishonestly, even lying to the fixers brought in to clean up their mess. They only pretend to care about the fans when it boosts her brand. The truth? They would have happily pocketed that token money without a second thought. The only thing that stopped them was the looming threat of prison time. Luckily for her, she managed to dodge the legal bullet this time around. The SEC decided to drop the charges the very next month. Her attorney immediately ran to TMZ to spin the narrative regarding the closed case. The statement boasted that the SEC closed the file without any negative findings and didn't ask for a single penny in sanctions from her. Since no official action was taken, she is technically free to go right back to shilling crypto or securities whenever she wants. With the legal heavy lifting done, she probably assumed she could just sweep the scandal under the rug and get back to her regular upload schedule. But she was dead wrong. The internet has a long memory. And on April 8th, 2025, they were ready to collect. She dropped episode 16 of her podcast, dragging YouTube titan KSI onto the show as a human shield to distract from the controversy. She opens with this awkward "we are back" monologue, bragging about officially owning the show and flying all the way to London to secure this guest. Then cuts to KSI in the flesh. It is one thing to shamelessly crawl back to the audience you tried to rob, but it is another to serve them absolute garbage content. It was easily one of the most boring interviews to ever hit the platform. KSI is just sitting there rambling about how it is better to be alive than dead. He is dropping groundbreaking wisdom like health is important and valuing it more than money or family. Just riveting stuff about how you need to be healthy to hang out with your relatives. The energy was non-existent. Then she tries to pivot, asking if he thinks she has potential as a boxer. It is painful to watch. She is fishing for validation. She is begging for fighting tips, and the chemistry is just absolute zero throughout the entire runtime. She and her co-host barely asked a single compelling question, forcing KSI to break his back carrying the entire episode. The comment section ripped them to shreds. One user summed it up perfectly. When the guest has to do all the heavy lifting on your own podcast, you know you are cooked. The comeback was a disaster. Thousands of dislikes and humiliated view counts, even with an A-list celebrity sitting right there. But the massive backlash didn't stop her. She uploaded another episode just days later, and the results were somehow even more brutal. The audience is done. One commenter nailed it. She tasted internet fame, ruined it with a scam coin, and now it is over. She is going to be chasing 10,000 views until she inevitably gives up and starts an OnlyFans. She wanted to have it both ways. She thought she could rug pull her audience for quick cash, and then have them welcome her back with open arms like nothing happened. That is simply not how the internet works. No matter how desperately she tries to stretch out her 15 minutes of fame, the clock has officially run out.